As if drone regulations weren't already hard enough to follow, new rules issued by the FAA have just made it even more complicated. These are some of the biggest changes since the FAA first started getting involved with drones. In fact, you probably won't be able to fly your current drone anymore without making significant modifications first. Keep watching to find out what's going on. I'm James Archer, and I make videos about making videos, and that includes drone videos, or at least it used to. Now I'm not so sure. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, regulates all aspects of civil aviation in the United States, including transportation safety, flight inspection standards, pilot certificates, and so on. Typically, the average citizen never had a reason to interact directly with the FAA. However, with the sudden explosion of interest in drones for civilian use, it created a huge challenge for the FAA. Drones are the fastest growing segment in the entire transportation industry, and now hundreds of thousands of casual hobbyist pilots like you and me have to interact directly with the FAA and try to follow the regulations the agency is basically making up as it goes. It doesn't help that they've been a little aggressive in classifying amateurs as commercial endeavors either. For example, I can't really fly my drone to get video for this channel anymore because even though this is just a hobby for me, it's organized enough that the FAA would probably classify this as a commercial endeavor and fine me for not having a license to use a drone for commercial use. In fact, I'm worried that they're going to retroactively fine me for drone footage I took in the past because they would now consider my channel commercial. In the past year, this channel has actually made $1.40. And if it sounds like I'm being paranoid, a fellow small YouTuber, Philly Drone Life, who only has about 5,000 subscribers, was recently fined $182,000 for non-compliance with FAA drone regulations. I'm actually working on getting my pilot's license, and I honestly try to follow all the rules, and I'm still terrified that the FAA is suddenly going to swoop in and wreck my life. All that said, as a hobbyist pilot, it's easy to feel like the FAA should just back off and let us do what we please with our drones. But there really are some complex issues to deal with when it comes to unmanned aircraft, even small ones. For every unhindered right pilots feel like they should have, there's an equally compelling argument for safety, security, and privacy regulation. Well, after a long wait, the FAA has just announced final rules for unmanned aircraft, bringing closure to some of those drone pilots who've been waiting to find out what's going to happen to them. There are two major rules that have just been announced, and these are definitely going to change the way that you fly and what you can or can't do with the equipment you already own. Let's start with the easy one first. The first rule is called the Operations Over People and at Night rule, which applies to Part 107 certified pilots. These pilots can now perform certain drone operations at night or over people based on various conditions and the level of risk of the operation without requiring prior authorization. Ironically, these are some of the same things that Philly Drone Life got such a huge fine for. Some of those violations might not actually be violations anymore. Okay, now to the one that's going to ruffle some feathers. The other rule just announced is the Remote ID rule, which applies not just to Part 107 pilots, but to all drones requiring registration with the FAA. That means if you fly a DJI Mavic Air, Mavic Pro, Phantom 4, or any of the other major drones, this applies directly to you. The rule states that your drone must broadcast its identification, its location, and the location of its control station. That means no more anonymous drone activity. If authorities want to know to whom a drone belongs and where to find the pilot, they can immediately get that information. Overall, that's probably a good thing, but still a little disconcerting. The rule also expands the list of authorities who can demand to see your pilot certificate and identification, which you're required to have on you and to show if requested. That list includes anyone from the FAA, the NTSB, the TSA, or any federal, state, or local law enforcement. Now here's the important part. The drone you already own is probably obsolete. If it doesn't broadcast remote ID, which none of them do yet, the only way the FAA will allow you to fly is if you buy a new drone that's remote ID enabled, or if you retrofit your current drone with broadcasting equipment. So that drone you already put hundreds of dollars into is going to be grounded unless you put even more money into it to comply with these regulations. That hurts. And the FAA hasn't really even specified the requirements for this remote ID system yet, so we don't still actually know how it has to broadcast it. There are still so many unknowns that it's hard to know what to make of it. For now, the future of civilian drone usage might lie with models like the DJI Mini 2, which comes in at just under 0.55 pounds, bypassing the weight threshold for FAA registration. These new rules go into effect 60 days after they're published. The Remote ID rule has 2 compliance dates. Drone manufacturers have 18 months to start producing drones that broadcast Remote ID, and pilots have 1 year to start using drones with Remote ID, or else you can bet there's going to be a call from the FAA.